and waiting for people to drop in. So good afternoon and welcome to today's session. And I'm here today to bust a few myths. Now, there's some stuff that comes up time and time again. And for sure, I saw the fallout from this when I was in the corporate environment. And I see and I hear it all the time when I speak to leaders. And that is that you can't measure leadership development. And you can't drive accountability because it's not measurable. So the whole thing just becomes subjective, right? And therefore you can't get an ROI. No measurable outcomes equals no ROI, right? So I'm here not only to transform your thinking, but of course, to show you what you can do if you're wanting to raise the bar by stopping investing in development that isn't driving results and transforming leadership and team performance across your business. So one of the biggest challenges when it comes to developing your people is getting beyond training, like going beyond training and achieving change. And so that's what we're going to focus on today. It's like we're focusing on the hard stuff. Now, it's easy to provide training, of course, you know, to create that short-term buzz, that excitement. After all, most leaders and teams have good intentions. Most want to do a good job. Most want to do a better job, but achieving it is sometimes the hard bit. Now, I built this presentation on the back of everything I've learned, not only over the course of an extensive career in senior leadership roles, but based on the work that I do with clients. So everything I'm learning all the time is being updated and rolled into this presentation. So when I talk about results and ROI, what I'm really talking about here is the leadership and team performance and the landscape as it relates to building high performing, healthy culture. So just out of interest, who here is currently spending money or planning to spend money on developing their people? Just drop a yes or a no. Hopefully you've got some interest in the subject and that's why you're here. Drop a yes or a no in the chat. Yeah, we can see a few yeses dropping in, so you are in the right place. And the importance here is really in following the process I'm going to share with you if you want to transform how you drive change and improvement in your business rather than just providing training that isn't getting you to where you want to go. So when I was putting this workshop together, I had the same aims as I have with all the workshops I run. And that is mainly to give you as much guidance and insight as I can as to how you can drive change and ROI from your investment and your business investment in developing your people, like to share with you the things that I see are making a difference to my clients for you to take away and to implement in your business. And I'll be introducing you to what Leadership and Team Performance Bootcamp is by sharing with you an approach that you can take to help you get and create the results you need. And of course, there'll be plenty of options to ask questions. So the Q&A is open and I'll try my best to get to questions either at the end of the session, or if I don't get to answer your question specifically, I will be going into those questions and I will be following up directly afterwards, as we've got a lot to get through today. So let's see how we get on, but please do fire in any questions. Nothing's off limit and I am here to help you where I can. So as we go through, you will notice there's a QR code in the corner of most of the slides. Now I've opened up my calendar with a number of appointments. So if anything I'm saying with you resonates and you want to discuss anything further, please go ahead, look, book a call. I do have limited availability at the moment because I'm afraid. So it's going to be a case of first come, first serve, but what with holidays and client commitments and stuff. But there are definitely slots available there for you if you want to have any further conversation. So, okay, without further ado, so let's dive in. So as I mentioned, with 20 years senior leadership experience in world-class national and international businesses, I combine my expertise as an established change and transformation leader. And I combine that with world-class leadership and team performance coaching that gets results. Now, I've seen it all over the years, and alongside talking and working with literally hundreds of business leaders over the past 3 years, I'd like to share with you why businesses are currently failing to get the results they need. And we're seeing this across a lot of businesses right now. So I want to share with you the 5 key reasons why businesses are failing. So most programs, a lot of the programs businesses are running are a shot in the dark based on subjective inputs. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more later. You know, developing people is never a one-time activity, yet so many businesses treat it like it is. The truth is, most businesses, when they invest in something, they want some kind of change. But what one-time events or series of events or programs create can often only amount to like either a fun day out, or you look at a lot of the programs and the feedback, there's like, you know, people have had a good time networking, they've got to know people, and that's all good stuff, but you don't have to pay for that stuff. It often provides some short-lived inspiration as well, and at best some short-term motivation. So people go back with all the best of intentions before the agenda then very quickly switches back onto the day job and nothing changes. So businesses are repeating the same programs annually with a new cohort, when last year's cohort haven't really made enough progress. And what they fail to do is create a culture of learning and development and progressive growth. As well as that, they're focusing on the top 5% at the expense of creating broader impact. And what I mean by this is many people in most businesses don't get support until way into their leadership career. I know for sure. I was 10 years into leading teams before I got any formal development. There's too many leaders leading teams feeling unequipped and out of their depth. You know, even today, a lot of people join my programs and they tell me it's hard leading teams, and they often really don't know what they're doing, which leaves many feeling unsupported and therefore undervalued. And it creates a negative impact on organisational performance, of course, because it's taking leaders disproportionate effort to do their jobs. Now, they're not saying it. I'm unfortunate. I get to see behind the scenes and they open up to me. Obviously, they're not sharing this in the workplace, but, you know, it's taking them disproportionate effort. And it creates a culture also where there's this divide between those who lead and those who don't. What many fail to recognise is the opportunity to create a leadership culture throughout an organisation, not just amongst the few. So what we know is that the best way to maximise performance is to build bottom up. That most people lack the skills in self-awareness, self-leadership, influencing and collaborating with others. And this is one of the very common themes across a lot of the people we speak with, and is the place that a lot of our clients start. Bear with me, my slide should be moving across right now, and it isn't. Going that way. Yay, we've done it. And then, of course, the third point, a lot of training is very often theory-based and lacks practical application. The focus is often on information, not implementation. I often get those muddled up. It's a bit of a tongue twister. And the problems that creates is content is so often it's theoretical. There's a lot of talk about what needs to be done, but less talk about how actually to go about it. And what we see is a lot of theory, but insufficient guidance on real world application. Like, what do I actually need to go away and do? And the reason for this is that content is rarely suited to how people actually learn. So people don't recall the content, and that lack of recall makes it hard to apply, let alone pass on, which is what you really want, by the way. You want to be building this coaching culture. You know, when you teach someone something, when they learn it, you want them to apply it. And when they apply it, you want them then to be able to pass it on and be able to coach that out to other people as well, building these kind of long-lasting leadership and coaching capabilities. And also the content often feels very far removed from day-to-day challenges. Whereas what I've found is that it's perfectly possible with the right tools and support to get the traction and drive action from day one. And then, of course, the elephant in the room is that what we see is a lack of clear, measurable outcomes, or the ability to hold leaders to account for taking action. So, you know, leaders going on these courses, coming back and doing nothing. And there's no way of holding them to account for it. It's like it's become accepted as the norm. So they battle on, you know, an absence of defined outcomes and metrics, difficulty in assessing the effectiveness of programs because there's no measures, an inability to hold leaders accountable for action. If there's no measures, you can't hold people to account. And of course, then that leads to a challenge in demonstrating the impact on business. And so naturally, it's hard to show an ROI to evaluate whether the investment has driven any outcomes. And in the businesses I talk to, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, commitment decreases, or even worse, the investment gets pulled completely, even though businesses know they need to be developing their people. And I call it the leadership doom loop, and it's everywhere. And then, of course, there's a lack of sustainability. So you're stuck in a loop of also then relying on high ticket external consultants. You know, the reality is for many, once you've invested in training, there's no structured way of keeping that training alive. You're reliant on a rinse and repeat cycle of training, failing to embed into business as usual, and so many more missed opportunities to create a more sustainable approach. And of course, this keeps you locked in, you know, using the same training providers to repeat the same programs over and over again. So those are the 5 reasons why businesses are struggling to see the results they want when they invest in developing their people. So with that being said, there should be maybe one of those at least that relates to you more than others. So I'd love to know, out of 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5, which ones of those do you most connect to? Which ones resonate? And which ones do you feel might be holding you back when it comes to getting the outcomes that you're looking for? So drop your responses, just get into the chat. Let me know which ones are resonating with you right now. So we've got quite a few 1s, 3s, 4s. Perfect. You know, the good news is no matter where you are, which ones resonate with you right now, we're going to be covering all of these things in this session today. So how do we get results and ROI in 2024? And so 2024, the world has changed and we have to change. Business is tough and your people are key to performance. And so the work we've been doing over the past few years has really helped shape some clarity around how to create change, to finally create a breakthrough and start getting the results you need from your investment in developing your people. So just to start off with, training is not the answer. It's part of it, but you have to get strategic. So there's 3 key areas that are helping my clients right now. And that is building strong foundations. It's what I call the set for success phase, which requires clarity and a custom plan. It's about doing the right work in the right way, and I call that the delivery phase. You know, the courses, the programs, they all need to be right, of course, delivered in the right way, that's sticky, that's memorable, that provides tools and the language to drive change. And then to ensure that what you do sticks, and that's what I call the change maker phase. You know, that's about cementing the work into business as usual and creating continuity, ensuring lasting change, and ensuring ongoing ownership and development of a leadership culture that's owned by your people. So today, the good news is I'm going to be sharing elements of all 3 of these. So this is a framework I use to really help clients break out of this cycle of doom and start to get the results they're really looking for. I don't know what I'm doing with my laptop today. There we go. So, who am I? Now, I'm not going to bore you for half an hour with a half-hour spiel. You're not here to find out about me. You're here to find out what's getting in the way of your growth and ROI as a result of your investment in developing your people. But the thing to know is why I'm doing what I'm doing. The work I do today is against a backdrop of over 20 years as a senior commercial leader, working for businesses such as Asda, IKEA, Co-op, Holland & Barrett, to name a few. And having led large-scale customer change for over 20 years, I learned a thing or two about leadership, performance, and getting results. I experienced some amazing, as well as some like toe-curling, blood-curdling experiences of some goddamn awful leadership. I quite literally have many a tale that would make your eyes water. And ultimately, I got sick of the politics, the positioning, the arguing, infighting, and especially how the corporate environment made me feel. So I set out to solve the problem. I genuinely believe most people are good people, but so much gets in the way of businesses delivering to their potential. There's not enough of the right training at the right time, at the right level to build the organizational capability you need to drive long-term results. There's so many gaps. And what I'm doing here is I'm just sharing with you what my own experience has shown, as well as what's working right now that's helping clients the world over get the results they're looking for. So if that's something you're struggling with right now and you want some guidance, accountability to help you get pointed in the right direction, at some point, you might decide to come and work with me. Like, I'm not selling anything here today. So in the interest of transparency, there will be no big sales pitch, but right at the end, there will be a chance to have a conversation, discuss the challenges specifically that you're having in your business and see if I can help any further. But, you know, that's completely down to you. That's it. However, There is enough here for you today to be able to understand what you need to do differently if you want to break that cycle and start to see better results and ROI from your investment in developing your people, and to start seeing a shift. I'm doing it again. There we go. So if you're not connected to me on LinkedIn, please do so. I share a lot of content which may challenge your thinking. And if you're here today, do send me a message. Press connect. Don't follow, as you won't be able to message me. And for attendees today, send me a message and share your organization's biggest leadership challenge. And I promise I'll take a look and I'll get back to you with a response to anyone who messages me. 100% I will get back to you. But before we start, I think it's really important that we set the scene and set some context around why we're here today. And to do this, ask ourselves, why should we be focused on results when it comes to developing our people? And part of the point here is, if you're not already focused, you need a strong argument to support you in driving change internally. And here is a place to start. So let's start with why. So what I'm seeing is so many businesses wasting time, money, and credibility with their people with an approach that isn't working. It's a definition of madness. They're not turning the dial. The content has minimal retention, even less application. They know they are wasting their time. And then there's the money, of course. Most business leaders tell me they're under pressure to demonstrate that actually they're driving a change, that they're under pressure for ROI, and they're finding it hard to point to any metrics that demonstrate results other than usually some good feedback from the sessions they attended. And then, of course, there's credibility. Whilst it's not the easiest one for professionals to admit, most of us are under pressure to get results and to drive change. Not doing so over time impacts credibility amongst your people, amongst your peers, and at worst might even be raising a few questions at board level with board level stakeholders. Investment has to be about driving change, yet businesses are not leading with a change management approach. And of course, this means that your people are suffering. The leadership landscape has never been more complex. Leaders are trying to be everything to everyone, and it isn't working because they're not equipped. Leaders and teams are suffering on so many levels. Like, we're starting too late. We're missing out on key stages of development, whether it's self-leadership, delivering through others. And that's before we even get into a position where people are leading teams. And that's when they find themselves in roles inadequately equipped, which means stagnation. So without development, people are either making it up, they're doing what they see others do, and they're failing to develop professionally. And then ultimately they become frustrated and disengaged. They either feel that they're wasting their time on training that doesn't address the real challenges and doesn't drive the change they need. And without this support, they're telling me they're really struggling in their roles. Like, for first-time leaders, it's even worse. Transitioning from being a high-performing SME into a leader and trying to hide the struggles, that's what's going on. And this is what they're experiencing, which ultimately leaves leaders feeling unsupported. It culminates in stress, burnout, frustration, and lack of enjoyment in their role, or it leaves them to seek the development they need elsewhere. If you're not developing them, somebody else just might. As people's inherent need for growth and development increases, because it is increasing, it starts to become a competitive advantage as an employer, which, of course, if you're not providing that, it has consequences to the business. Look, times have changed, attitudes to work have changed. We can see older groups are leaving the workforce in droves because they've had enough. Look at all the stats, right? Engagement's an issue, productivity is an issue, people aren't happy at work, people can't wait for Friday and they dread Monday morning coming, and the younger generations won't put up with it. They don't have to, and they're rapidly becoming the largest part of the workforce. People are suffering, and this has a cost. And yes, when people suffer, so does your business. Your people resources are one of the biggest costs to your business. When you don't get the best from your people, it will always impact performance. It might not be visible. Sometimes it's so easy just to accept the status quo and the toils and the troubles and the problems. But there is an impact. It might not be visible, but it's there. And then ineffective leadership obviously drives suboptimal performance. It will always limit productivity, efficiency, and the ability to drive strategic goals. And without the right type of development, businesses end up with a talent drain. They fail to create a strong talent pipeline and a leadership development culture that helps you keep people, build capability, and create the environment where you unlock what I call like discretional effort, right? Which is often what's needed to drive growth in very competitive marketplaces. And of course, this leads to missed opportunities. Things don't get done, you miss opportunities. And the risk over time is that as others are upping their game, your competitiveness is diminishing as you fail to capitalize on market innovations and trends. So I hope that adds just a little bit of context as to why what I'm seeing is leading to a need for change. Does that all make sense so far? And just drop me a yes in the chat, just to make sure that I know you're still with me, and that what I'm saying is resonating with you right now. So yeah, brilliant stuff. So now, this might all sound tough, right? And it is. You're here because that's not you, right? That's not what you want. You want growth, you want results. So let's get into the how. Any questions as we go along? Just drop them into the Q&A. I'm hoping you can see me in the corner. Fingers crossed. So as I said, any questions, drop them in the Q&A. So hopefully we're all here because we know and believe investment in people is important, but results are too. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to head into the things that you need to be doing if you want to get on top of this and start to get results. So I'm going to kick off with part one. I'm going to cover first. I'm going to first cover the first topic that's essential to success, and that's the need to get back to basics. And this is where most businesses are missing and where most businesses are failing. So there's three big things that we spend a lot of time on with every customer we work with. And it's how to set themselves up for success in creating return on investment. And there are three things that are typically getting in the way. One is a lack of clarity. So they don't have a grip on where they are today. So they don't have the analysis or the data needed to point them in the right direction and make sure they focus where it matters most. Secondly, they aren't scrutinizing the content in the right way. Most content on most programs sounds really great, by the way, but the key is always to ask yourself, how is this going to be applied in real practical terms, i.e. what are we actually going to go away and do? And thirdly, they aren't considering how to make change land. So what are the processes and the support that's needed to increase our chance of succeeding? So I'm going to take you through each of these three areas. So when it comes to creating clarity, this is what we're seeing. Most businesses have an absence of data, so they're relying either on what people say they need, or they are basing their plan on subjectively what line managers say their people need. And in reality, most leaders don't know. Their input is based on anecdotal feedback, as well as our own biases as to what great leadership and team performance really is, some of which, for some people, is massively outdated. And many base it on perhaps what they've done in the past or what they thought was effective. Again, often outdated views. And so it often leads to the wrong solution for where their business is right now. It leads to generic programs focusing on the wrong things, the wrong people at the wrong time. And all of this is contributing to a lack of the results they hoped for when they're developing their people. So if these are the things they're doing, then I'm sure you want to know what they're doing about it. So the businesses who I've worked with are transforming their results, and they're starting from a point of clarity. So they're starting with a deep understanding of personality and team dynamics. Now, this business here started by doing the detailed work to understand the strengths and challenges, not just at an organizational level, but at a team level. This client understood the mistake they had made just focusing on top talent and wanted to drive not only a healthy culture, but one that was focused hard on driving performance. And in order to do so, they recognized that their need to build foundational capability, which meant focusing on self-awareness and learning more about each other. Their goal was to focus on collaboration, culture, inclusion, valuing and knowing how to bring out the best in others, as well as ensuring they weren't becoming a face-fit organization, but one that used the right people with the right skills to make the right decisions across the business. Most often, It's our failure to understand people that leads to most of the challenges that exist in any organization, but it's one that can be addressed with the right knowledge and by doing the right work. There's possibly too much to say about this. I might actually run another whole session just completely on this topic, but there will be a chance to find out a bit more, which I'm going to cover off later in this session. But what businesses who are transforming their performance are also doing is they're buying into the use of data and a success framework to drive their progress and results. And this business used our high performing teams framework to understand how to unlock capability within their organization. And I'm going to go into this a bit more later. But from the data, we gained a deep understanding into the strengths and opportunities at an organization and at a team level. And what this gave them was clarity on the individual challenges that teams were facing, as well as the common challenges across the business. And what it did was it allowed them then to focus on quick wins at an individual leader and team level, as well as pave the way to focus through at an organizational level on the right things and in the right areas. And their success is coming off the back of buying into the use of data and a success framework to identify exactly where to start, to drive their progress, to create accountability, and to track results. Now, the next thing we need to look at, of course, is content. And what we're seeing over and over again is some great ideas being taught, but not always in a way that's sticky or memorable. So recall and consequently implementation can be a problem, which then brings about challenges when participants need to actually go away and create impact or change on the ground. See, the way people learn has changed. You know, it's much faster, it's more visual, retention levels are lower, ideas need to be simple, they need to pack a punch, and they need to adapt to modern ways of learning, when in reality, what's happening is too much theory or time spent in self-discovery. Like I learned a lot about myself, and that's kind of great, but actually what you want to see is something changing on the ground, and not enough course content that's translating ideas into practical, actionable, implementable ideas for leaders to either use personally or directly with their teams. And too much is being left to chance when there are proven models and actions that, when learned and implemented, quite simply get results. And when your people spend time in training sessions, it's about being clear on what's actually going to change or be done differently as a result of the training session. And what's making the shifts for clients right now in 2024 is a switch towards using visual tools. Now, visual tools are a game changer. Visual tools help in that they do what they say. They help leaders. I'm calling like leaders is, I think everyone's a leader, right? We all have to lead something. Don't matter who you are in a business. You have to lead something. You're responsible for creating or doing something, and that normally involves other people. To me, that's leadership. But it helps create a toolkit for leaders to use depending on the situation, and it should be a toolkit that they build up over time. And what I'm showing you is a small selection of the tools used in the work we do with clients, like simple ideas such as how to get the best from people, how to become self-aware, how to understand our impact on others, how to communicate in a way that others understand the real meaning of what we're saying, how to ensure you and your people are performing at their best. And as part of any journey, our focus is equipping people with skills needed to lead effectively, both in work and in life. You know, the whole life thing often gets omitted. You know, we're only as good at work as we are in life. So a lot of the work that we do also applies not just in the work context, but also in the context of people's friendships and family and life outside of work. So alongside the visuals comes the introduction of common language. So support challenge matrix becomes the tool and language to create high performing healthy culture. Know yourself to lead yourself is the language and framework to identify and manage your behavioral tendencies. Provisional plan promise is the language we use to help understand the intent that sits behind someone's communication. And then 70-30, the 70-30 principle is a tool to evaluate the extent to which individuals are working in their zone of genius and we're getting the best out of people. And of course, the action starts from day one. So tools are introduced to go away and use immediately. So you start to see and feel change from day one, which flows nicely into the last of the 3 areas. So we've covered clarity and we've covered content. And so for the third point, on getting back to basics, let's cover the third point, which is change. And so, yeah, change is something that many leaders hope for, but we're constantly hearing that there's often a sense of disappointment that they aren't seeing enough change either after or during the process of developing their people. And the truth is that change only happens when people take action. And there's often not enough action. And what we see is this: there's often too much is left to chance. There's no clear ask of attendees that will result in change. So what do they actually have to go away and do? I mean, tangible stuff on the ground with their teams or as a team, you know, that will result in change after each session with clear guidelines and timelines. And of course, an absence of any ask or homework means no follow-up and no lessons learned. Too much is left to chance. Success happens with time and practice, through implementing, through learning, through sharing, often through repeating and going again. You know, it's never a one-time thing. And then the truth is, many leaders do get stuck and need more support through the learning and implementation phase. And this rarely happens. Training sessions alone, with no action, no follow-up, no lessons learned or support, are a key reason why outcomes and change aren't achieved. But what we are really clear on is what works and gets results. So our change management approach means we know there are key things that have to be in play if you want to drive change. The success that our clients are achieving is achieved through clear action plans. They leave every session with absolute clarity as to what they need to go away and do individually and as a team, with timelines and clear guidelines to deliver. And they're equipped with the tools needed to do the work. So there's no guesswork, just absolute clarity. And we've learned that group coaching sessions support implementation by creating this space to share ideas, discuss issues and challenges, and help develop best practice, as well as implementing initiatives such as account buddies, where we buddy people up. And that also helps drive momentum and creates an internal peer pressure to get things done. And of course, support when people need it. Leadership is a journey, and providing access to be able to ask for support and guidance, or for us to be able to send gentle reminders when needed. You know, there's lots of, you know, we've been using Slack. It's a brilliant tool. We're currently looking at Circle, because that's kind of an emerging tool that seems to be doing, you know, it seems to have some additional beneficial features in it. But, you know, it's a really good, there are some really good tools out there that we're constantly working on and evolving how it works. And they provide that support in between the sessions. You know, because actually leadership challenges don't often just come up in the session. It's what comes up in between as well. So that's a snapshot of the fundamentals of building strong, healthy foundations, you know, the absolute basics needed to start to drive results and ROI from your investment. So are you all still with me? Let's just drop me a yes in the chat just to let me know that you are still here, you're still with me. And as we're going along, please share any observations or just what you're seeing, you know, what you're experiencing. Whilst we haven't got time for dialogue today, I'd love to hear what you're struggling with or what you're working on. Okay, so we are now going to move to the next stage. So just to recap, you're here because you want results. So here are my top tips to help you build healthy foundations. So the first one is getting back to basics. It's key to taking a change management approach to developing your people. Focusing only on one of those at the top is like trying to ice a cake that hasn't yet been baked. Then it's about understanding where your organizations and team are. Create or lean into some kind of framework. Use data, and you can use it to create accountability and drive action. And then make sure that training is simple and actionable. You should be able to start seeing results immediately. So much leadership development gets overcomplicated and is certainly based on too much theory. Check implementation. What do people need to do? When? How? How are they supposed to do it? What support mechanisms are in place to help them in real time when they need it? And of course, we need more change makers. Believe that change is possible and that you can become a catalyst to change by making an impact in the lives of the people you work with at the same time as driving organizational performance. So, which leads me on to then part 2. Okay, so we've built strong foundations. So the next thing is to ensure that the work that what we've invested in is not here today, gone tomorrow. Like, we've all been there. It's a mistake that many people are making. Like, over time, the impact of the work they did fizzled out. Like, sometimes within 6 months, sometimes within months, sometimes 6 months, a year, and then you're back, you're back to square one. So why bother? We have to stop thinking and believing in short-term solutions, because they don't work. They're sticking plasters, they're tick box exercises, and it's old school thinking. What we need to do is create long-term sustainable growth in order to get the results we need. So that's how you improve performance. That's how you create measurable outcomes and get a return on investment. And so we're going to spend some time now looking at 2 key shifts that have proved fundamental to getting results, getting the results you're here to get, of course. And that is to make these two shifts. One is to be strategic in your approach, and secondly is to build sustainably. And that's how to build lasting results and change. It's what I referred to right back at the beginning as the change maker phase. So we're going to go now through, what we're going to do now is go through each of these. So let me take the first one first, logically. And so in order to be strategic, you need 2 things. You need a growth framework. I mentioned this earlier, but I'm now going to go into this a little bit deeper. It's a key driver. And we also need a continual improvement approach. So a growth framework is about being clear what it is you're trying to achieve, which starts with understanding high performance. So what creates high performing teams and how to achieve it. So when I work with clients, I use a high performing teams framework. We know that every team has the ability to perform to its potential when it performs in 5 key areas. Yet the average team performs at less than 60% of its potential. Every team has the ability to perform at 100% of its potential. Now, the reason for that is that most teams focus in mainly on alignment and execution. So we focus in on what do we need to do and whether we've done it. Yet the foundation to success is when teams do well with communication and relationships, because that's the bit that builds trust. So the high performing teams work is what I use with clients, and we start by identifying how teams are doing against this, because then we know where we are, we can see the gaps, but we also have a goal, right? We know what we're trying to achieve. And the whole idea is it works like a flywheel. So you have to unlock capability in that order. We know this is how it works. And that growth framework reveals everything we need to do to grow a team or an organization's performance, allowing us to unlock quick wins as well as focus where it matters. And it also reveals the difference between teams and shows where the work is needed most, and allows you to become, like, over time, a lot of the time, like businesses, we start off and there's always generic stuff to focus on. But over time, and this is where, we're talking about being strategic, you end up then supporting where it's needed specifically with certain teams or certain individuals. So the framework is built on 72 individual criteria across those 5 areas of high performing teams. And when you use a growth framework, the benefit is you have a destination in mind. In this case, unlocking the potential of your people with a measure of how close or not you are to achieving it. And with that in place, you then focus on continual improvement, like driven by data, tracking performance, creating accountability, measuring results. You get to decide how often you want to track progress. Like, when you measure, you recalibrate and you use the data to determine the next best step on your growth journey. Get the data, use the data, include your people, and agree next steps and timing. So you see, there is no start and stop. It's a journey, but it's one that allows you to start in the right place, focus on the right things, and build from there. And the great thing about it is the journey works in line with your timings and your budgets, and you go as fast or slow as you want. So we're going to now look at sustainability. because of course it needs to be sustainable. We're looking for long-term efficiency, sustainability, growth, return on investment. And there are two key areas to focus on in order to achieve this. So the first one is building internal capability. The second one is becoming self-directed. So getting to a place where you become largely self-supporting. So building internal capability means you have to make that shift from external support and repetition of the same programs by external providers to identifying and building a team of internal champions. Depending on the size of your organization, that can start with one person, two people. But when you look at the business case, it makes total sense. Then we introduce what we call catalysts, right? So catalysts are like internal team members who can become accredited to deliver some of our programs, but who understand the system and processes and drive it from the inside. When you then support them with online systems and support to support and refresh, even to provide content as the basis for induction programs. Now, let's say, for example, you bring new people into the business. How do you bring them up to speed with the work that everyone else in the business has done? Internal catalysts and upskilling internally with the right systems and support is a way to keep on top of the basics, whilst any investment you then make is on next level next level progression, rather than just recycling the same stuff over and over again, and at best sort of staying in the same place. And then, of course, the ultimate goal for any organization is to become self-directed, and that's to equip leaders with the tools to identify and work on their own gaps, give them access to drive their own analysis, to establish their current baseline, and work with their team to support where needed to improve performance, to assign actions to teams or team members, to undertake unlimited assessments or check-ins and track performance over time, and to tap into a central internal catalyst support where needed. This is where you get to a real leadership culture, the leader as a self-propelled coach for their people. The whole premise is to create a shift from high support to self-support. And of course, it means people like me talking myself out of a job, but our focus has to be on the results needed, not the continual cycle of delivering training after training after training. So there's a new world out there that focuses on knowing where you are, having content that delivers impact, is memorable, drives change, but which is also strategic in its approach, and one that gets you from high support to self-support and delivers results and ROI. So we've covered the three fundamentals: clarity, content, change, the three things you need to get right and have in place before you do anything. And we've covered long-term growth and ROI, touching on being strategic and sustainable in our approach. We have to stop thinking and believing in short-term solutions and thinking that training providers have some magic wand that you miraculously train your people and everything's going to change. A lot of trainings are just sticking plasters. They aren't serving us. We need to shift towards long-term growth solutions, and we have to stop believing that you can't get or measure results and output and therefore ROI from developing your people. It's old school thinking. So let's just recap. Let's go back to the start. We've been through everything you need to do. I shared it all. Creating clarity, building a custom plan to help you achieve your goals, ensuring content and training gets traction and immediate results, that's embedded through practice and support and allows you to build sustainably over time, taking you from getting started to delivery to becoming champions of change, whilst also taking yourself from high support to self-support. And look, my job here is not to get you to like me, it's to tell you the truth. If you're investing in developing your people and not creating change, you're wasting your time. If you're running programs that focus on the top 5%, chances are you're not elevating standards and you're not getting to where you want to be, because you're not building strong, resilient foundations and consistent high standards. If you're not holding your people to account for leadership standards at every level and measuring progress, if you're not building progressively and strategically, if you're not building your own capability and reducing reliance on external providers, then you're not going to get the measurable outcomes and ROI when you invest in developing your people. And That is quite simply the truth. So, and whilst that sounds like a lot, it really is a lot easier than you think to get started. And to do that, you have to start with the key things that matters, right? Rome was not built in a day, and neither will be your leadership capability or your results. So what I want to share with you now is where to start. So you start with the analysis, you create the insight, and from this you build a 12-month plan and a 3-year vision. You implement, you rinse and repeat. That's how you get high-performing teams and high-performing culture. And this is what we've been doing for business this is what we've been doing with businesses from 6 million revenue on a scale-up pathway to 20 million, with 20 to 25 employees, to 100 million businesses with over 100 employees, and in larger businesses, 200 to 300 million supporting exec directors with business unit functions. The process is exactly the same. It just takes a bit longer to get started, the bigger the teams and the bigger the organization, like, you know, but I'm talking a couple of weeks difference, right? And I mentioned earlier that I run Discovery Bootcamp. So in the last few minutes, here's an opportunity for anyone who feels they could do with some help to get this off the ground. You can, of course, take this and do it yourself. I can show you how to do that. Book a call as well, you know. There's my QR code. Like, just book a call in my calendar. I can show you how you can do this yourself. Like, and I'm more than happy to do that. Like, honestly, for me, we just need change, and if I can help you do that by doing it yourself, then I'm more than happy to invest an hour of my time on a call with you. So please book a call. I place my QR calendar, my QR code there, so just scan it and you'll bring up my calendar and my availability. But if you want some help to get started, then stay seated, listen on. I'm going to be brief. This might be for you if you'd like me to help and build a plan and show you the sustainable process that builds your leadership capability and gets you that return on investment. I've opened up my calendar, and again, I'm happy to discuss that as well. So together we can establish exactly where you are and establish the best approach to strategically, I don't know where I left my teeth today, to strategically drive you forward. Like I've got probably about, I think it's about 15 slots in my calendar, and I can see already that 5 of those have been taken. And ultimately, I really only have the ability to take on a couple of new clients a month. So and the first 5 who want to go ahead will receive a free masterclass, actually, to address one of the key challenges that comes up in the analysis, to really kickstart that process. So just use that QR code, or just message me directly on LinkedIn and I'll send you my calendar link, whatever's easiest for you. And together we can build a success plan that shows you where you are now, identifies your strengths and gaps at a team level and at an organizational level, identifies quick wins for each team and where to focus, that shows you what the plan for the next 12 months should look like, and then shows you how to build strategically over time, building your long-term capability and reducing your reliance on external providers. After that, if you like me and you like the work I do, and think I can help you, you may choose to work with me beyond the preliminary discovery phase. Or I would be happy again to share more about how you can own it and drive it yourself, because that's perfectly possible too. I'll help you build that long-term path to growth and success, to results and ROI. And as part of the discovery phase, you will have 1 month's access to our online platform to complete all the assessments. You'll have pro-level personality profiling for each and every team member. You'll get a team performance analysis, so you determine the teams. And from that, we'll get an analysis, insight, and quick wins. You'll get a 12-month plan and a 3-year strategic plan and a sustainability roadmap. Our bootcamp sessions will take you on a journey of discovery where we share the findings in a 2-hour session. Our bootcamps are in high demand as they take the guesswork out of any investment and give you all the tools you need to measure performance, to create accountability and deliver results. They basically de-risk the whole process of getting the results that you need. So, like, we understand your people are important, so we help you to gather the right information, understand your current capability, get some quick wins under your belt, bespoke to each team leader. And for the first 5 book, there's a free masterclass, and we'll give you the opportunity to work with me further. Like, you know, there's no long-term commitment here at all. You know, it's about gathering the information, understanding where you're at, and then figuring out, like, do you think I'm someone that can help you or not? We'll just take what you've got. You'll have plenty of stuff to take away, quick wins to action, or I'll show you how, and what you can do to own it and drive it yourself. And lastly, here is the link. Grab some time in the diary. If there isn't a slot that suits you, just send me a message, connect on LinkedIn, or simply send me an email. My email address is up on the screen as well. What I was going to say, here's my you can check out my profile on LinkedIn as well, of course. So I hope that this has been informative and helpful. Together, we have to play a part in raising standards and stop wasting time and effort, destroying credibility, stop letting our people down, and unleash business potential by improving capability, creating leaders people want to work for, not who they have to work for, teams they want to be part of, and a culture they want to work in. So and by doing so, we improve people-led KPIs. You know, think about all the targets you're trying to hit: engagement, retention, absence, well-being, so much more. So look, thank you so much for your time. And that, like, 99.9% of you look like you've stayed the duration. I'm just going to have a quick look. I hope you found the session. There's quite a lot of questions. So and I'm streaming to a couple of places as well. So let's have a quick look. Okay, so there's one here from Sarah. Sarah is asking, what's a typical budget to get started? Look, a do-it-yourself budget can honestly start from as little as like $10 a month. It depends on how you want to approach it. For me to help you and come in and do that kind of analysis work, it depends on the size of the business, but you know, a business with like multiple teams, 3 to 5 grand possibly, and maybe less, depending if you're a small business. Honestly, it just depends. The best thing we can do is have a conversation, and we'll figure out something that works. And then Mike says, I invested a lot in developing my people, and perhaps I've become a bit old and cynical. Haven't we all? And it's is it really possible to drive change? In short, Mike, yes. The key barrier is typically a lack of measures and an unwillingness to create accountability. So that's the other side of things, is even with the measurements, if you're not prepared to drive any accountability, then you might as well not bother. If you're prepared to hold people to account, and what happens a lot of the time is we don't necessarily leap straight into accountability. You know, in some businesses, we do some foundational work, we set the scene, we prepare people, and then we know that at a point in time, then we're going to start driving more accountability. So it really depends on what you're trying to achieve and where you're at. But one of the things we do, if we become longer term partners, is that we conduct quarterly strategic reviews. So we check in on progress, we support with implementation, make any adjustments that's needed. So 100% you can drive change, but you also have to do the work too. You know, I'm not a magician. I don't have a magic wand. I can bring a certain amount of magic, but I can't do it all for you. And then Lewis, so thanks. Let's have a look at this question. So I can't get started right now as we've got some big org changes going on. Will you still be able to help us, say, mid to end of March? The answer is yes. Book a call. Look, let's get something planned now. If you can't find a diary slot, just send me a message. We'll sort something out before the diary gets too full. And then one more, we've got a couple more minutes left, and just one last one. So I understand. Okay, you've asked to remain anonymous. Okay, that's fine. We have a culture issue. Will this help us solve that? I mean, yes, right? So the answer is yes. Your culture is only ever as good as the individuals and teams in your organization. So you'll be able to clearly see the challenges and help fix the problem. We've done a lot of work with toxic teams that struggle to value and appreciate each other. But the only thing I would say is you have to be prepared to take action too. Like, not everyone wants to go on the journey that you want to go on. And I do sadly see some leaders who tolerate poor and even toxic behaviors because someone's a high performer. They hit all their targets, But everyone, I've even had people say, look, it's like coming to work here is like coming to being in a prison camp, but the person is a high achiever, so they brush over it. So yeah, look, I mean, book a call, let's talk through the specifics and see how I can help. So okay, so let's wrap up. I would like to thank you so much, A, for showing up, B, for sticking with me, and for all the questions. But I haven't managed to get onto all the questions, but I will take a look at them after this session, and I will get back to you directly, like I promise you that I'll do that. So unless there's anything else, I'd like to thank you once again. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. Please do book a call. I'd love to meet you, speak to you, discuss your challenges, and see if there's any way I can help. Look, there's now I won't be shoving any high pressure sales stuff down your throat. But for now, over and out. Thank you so much.